So good morning everyone. My name is Lalit Soni and today we'll be having a look at today's Indian Express. So as usual we'll be starting with the practice question which was given to you in the last session, and then we'll be moving forward with the important articles. Today's newspaper was not very lengthy, so there were only few articles for our discussions. Okay. But be ready for tomorrow's newspaper. That would be kind of having a lot of factual data, etc. And day after tomorrow, that would even be bigger one, because after the budget, in announcement of the budget, the newspaper will be quite important for us. Okay. And other than that, we have this budget special series on our channel, so we will be discussing budget over there as well. So I'll just keep you posted with that. So you can not miss anything which is important when we are talking about your interim budget. Okay. So as we discussed yesterday, there was no economic survey, and there was this report by economic advisor's office, or you can say from the finance ministry. That report was named as Indian Economy a Review. In that report we have talked about few data, and that data will be important for your exam, because since there is no economic survey, so we will consider that report as a official data from the government. Okay. So now let's start with the today's discussion. In today's paper, we'll be discussing few important articles that is related to your test tube rhino. You must have heard about this test tube babies or this in vitro fertilizer. So on the lines of same thing, now we are going for the test tube rhinos. So first successful embryo has been transplanted, or you can say into a surrogate rhino. So we'll be discussing about that. Okay, and why we are doing this. Okay. And afterwards we will be moving with the corruption perception index. So there is this index which has been in the public domain now, and in that we will see what is India's ranking, how India is doing with respect to the other nations or other countries of South Asia. And other than that, when we are looking at the global perspective, we will see who is doing the good and who is doing the worst. Okay. Then World Economic Outlook. This is also a report, or you can say index. This is published by IMF. So this has also come out, and they have talked about India's growth perspectives. So we'll be talking about that index as well. And then we'll talk about few international events, and then there is two articles for your own read, and afterwards we'll be looking at the practice question. When we are having a look at today's front paper, there are no important issue. You can say these are all just political. Let's say BJP takes post of Chandigarh mayor, AAP and Congress says it's a fraud. Other than that, polls on hold, Mumbai civic bodies grave 500 crore upgrade is there. So all these things are political in nature. There was one thing: budget session begins today. Suspension of 140 or 14 opposition MPs revoked. So basically, when we are talking about, that most in the session, budget in the last session, there were few suspension when we are talking about the opposition bloc. So basically, that suspensions are now being revoked, because budget session is quite important, discussions are important. That is why that has been revoked. Okay. The committee behind this is privilege committee. Okay. So it is your job to go and check what is privilege committee, what are how many members are there, when was it first constituted. All these things are static portions, so you can go through that. So let's start with the practice question which was given to you in the last class. That was pretty easy question. Economic survey document presented a day before budget is prepared by. Okay. So when we are talking about the presented by, answer would be different, but here they are talking about who is the one preparing it. Okay. So option C would be your right answer, Office of Chief Economic Advisor. Okay, or Economic Advisor. Okay, ultimately when we are talking about these are in Finance Ministry, they are attached to the Finance Ministry only, but here they are saying that who prepared it, Finance Minister does not prepare it. Okay, document Department of Revenue, no. Then Finance Secretary, no. That is most appropriate answer here is Office of Economic Advisor. Okay. Now moving further, we'll start with the first article of the day, that is test tube rhinos, why rebuilding doomed species as a desperate race against time. Okay. So basically when we are talking about rhinos, okay, or northern white rhinos. So when we are talking about rhinos, there are various species. Here we are specifically talking about northern white rhinos. Okay. Say they are on the verge of extinction, and the last surviving male died in 2018. Okay. So that is why, since they are on the verge of extinction and their population is like limited in few numbers, So that is why we are desperate to go for revival of this species, or boost in the population of this species, and that is why we are going for another artificial technology, or you can say in vitro fertilization in that particular species. There are positives and negatives attached to it, okay, but the thing is they might not even ask you this in your mains, but the thing we will discuss it. Even if they ask, there will be some data you can put it there, and in general you can talk about in vitro, okay. So let's start with this thing. Death of last male in 2018 made the extinction of the northern white rhino an inevitability. Now, when we are talking about 2015, in when 2018 the last male died, before that also we had this team of 20 scientists who are trying to go for some project which is attached to the population revival of these rhinos, and they are going for the in vitro fertilization, okay. So they are trying to rebuild the subspecies or some species related to that particular genus, okay. So that is why this has been in news, and that when we are talking about this particular project, the name was somewhere biorescue, okay. So that is why it becomes important, okay. So whatever is given in this article, there are a lot of technical terms etc which might not be important for you. Whatever is important, I'll be discussing all these things in the next slide, but this picture for your reference, you can remember that this is how northern white rhinos looks, okay. Now let's see what is happening. Last male northern white rhino died in 2018, leading to a species imminent extinction, okay. Now biorescue project initiated in 2015 by a team of 20 scientists, okay. So it is an international project, or you can say by an international consortium of 20 scientists, okay. Announcement of the first ever rhino pregnancy using in vitro fertilization. So this is the news of the day. Today we have seen that now there is this one pregnant rhino, or you can say this embryo has been planted into a surrogate, okay. Now breakthrough achieved with a southern white rhino as a surrogate, okay. As I told you, their populations are limited, and now southern white rhino is acting as a surrogate for this embryo, and now we'll be seeing the further course of action. Broader conservation context, why we are going for the conservation of this particular species, because as I told you, their population is going limited, or their population is on the verge of extinction. As I told you, the last male rhino has already died, okay. So we can say that if we do not try to rebuild the population with the whatever specimen we have, we might lose them forever. So other than that, when we are talking about these particular species, they are hunted for their horns, okay. So decline of rhino population is due to organized hunting of horns, ongoing threat to various rhino species, with one rhino poached every 16 hours in Africa, okay. So that is one thing, that is poaching, or you can say hunting for horns. Other than that, habitat, decline of the habitat is also another issue, okay. So right now when we are talking about this population effort, we are talking about focusing on the population, but there is one more element we should focus, that is habitat, okay. So that you can see that this is a criticism of this particular project, that you are going for the increase in the population, or you are going for the procreation of this particular species, but the thing is you are not focusing on the habitat, okay. So that is one criticism. Now let's see here challenges in the process, okay. So limited genetic diversity. So gene pool for these particular species is limited, because gene pool for a few diseased Jew males and few females, okay. As I told you, their population is limited. When we are talking about zoo males, there are few male population of this particular species, they are in the captivity, and then there are 2 females available, okay. So now that is why we have gone for the surrogacy with the southern rhinos, okay. Now behavioral challenges, okay. So when we are going for the IVF, okay, or you can say when we are going for the surrogacy, but the thing is ultimately that species has to live with their own pack, their own community, and they will get their behavioral from them also only. For that it is necessary that population survives. These 2 females, it is important for us that they survive, so that the next generation can be kind of understanding their behavior from them. Okay, so that is why we have this restriction of time, because there are chances that these females might die in the future. So that is why we are trying to get this particular pregnancy successful, so that they can be placed with their you can say inhabitation, so that they can learn the behavioral changes. Okay, now time constraint, as I told you, this population is dying and population is limited, and that is why we have this time constraint, so that we can try to revive this particular species. And then critics question the resource allocation. Now critics are saying that since there are only limited rhinos, why are you spending so much on that? Okay, other than that, even if you are spending so much on that, there are no guarantee of results. Okay, third thing is that once you get the successful pregnancy also, you are not focusing on the habitat. Okay, so these are few criticism. Rebuilding a species without addressing threat to its natural habitat. Okay, so these are, you can say that, few challenges which we have discussed in the process. And now when we are talking about the long term viability of the project, okay, reintroducing a population into the wild require addressing genetic issues threat to the natural habitat. So when we are talking about genetic issues, that issues will we will face after the birth. We will know what changes are there. Okay, then the threat to the natural habitat, right now we are not talking about this. Then crossbreeding with southern white rhinos not considered a viable solution due to the loss of unique attributes. Obviously when we are talking about in vitro, that is happening. Other than that, next option is crossbreeding. Okay, breeding of these north white rhinos with the southern rhinos. Okay, so when we are talking about these two species, when we say that we can go for the cross breeding, okay, and that way we can also revive the population. But the thing is, when we go for cross breeding, there are chances that their natural attributes might change. Okay, because these two are different species, or you can say subspecies of one species, but they have different attributes. And if we go for the cross breeding, there are chances that we will lose the natural attributes. Okay, so that is another issue. Now what are you can say future consideration? Okay, so need for a delicate balance between technological advancement, ethical consideration, and practicalities in the species conservation. So when we are talking about technological advancement, no doubt there are technologies like in vitro fertility, and other than that there are other technologies like crossbreeding, etc. So we have to make a balance between those technologies and the ethical consideration. When we are talking about ethical considerations, so animals also have their own rights. Okay, so going for some kind of experimentation might be against their right. Then now practicalities in the species conservation. As I told you, a huge amount of finance has been invested on that. If we do not get any result, okay, or if we get any negative result, that might be we might be causing a lot for environment. So that is why practicalities should be considered. So in the future consideration, we have to make a balance between the technologies within the ethical consideration and the practicalities. Okay, the project serves as a case study for the global conservation effort, promoting discussions about the role of humans in restoring endangered species. Okay, so one thing is natural role, where is human can go for protection of the natural habitats, go for lesser hunting, etc. But the thing is, now when we are talking about technologies like crossbreeding or in vitro, in that case human is directly getting involved themselves. Okay, so now here we are kind of taking this particular case, case as a lesson or as a case study for the future endeavors as well. Okay, so that is about this northern rhinos which we have discussed. I guess this must be sufficient. This would be sufficient for you if we consider your exam point of view. Okay, so this is the picture, so that you can remember all these elements of this. So if they ask something in your exam, so you can also talk about crossbreeding, in vitro, and what are the threats they are facing, and what are the future considerations we are looking forward. And when we are talking about the conclusion, you can say that we have to make a balance between all these things. Okay, name of this particular species can be important for your prelims as well. Okay, other than that, this name of the project, bio rescue, can be important. Now moving further, second article, that is related to your corruption perception index. Hold on. So This report, Corruption Perception Index, it is released by Transparency International. Okay, this is an organization. So under that report, there was some ranking given. There was some score between 0 to 100. Okay, and there are nearly 180 countries. Okay, and out of that, out of 180 countries, India is at 93rd position. Okay, so when we are talking about this particular report, earlier in 2000, I guess 2022, when ranking was there, India was having a rank of 85. Okay, so when it was ranked at 85 and now we are ranked at 93rd, so there is you can say not significant, but there is a drop in the ranking. Okay, now why this drop is seen? Because they have given that because of the general election coming ahead of the elections, India sees further narrowing of the civic space. Okay, so because of this particular reason, that narrowing of the civic space, other than that, passes of Telecom Act. Okay, when we are talking about this telecom bill, there are few provisions related to the interceptions. Okay, wherein government can intercept any message in case there is a threat to public order, security, national security, etc. But the thing is, these terms like public order, national security, these are kind of open-ended terms, and that is why they have somehow made a drop in the ranking. Okay, so let's have a look at it. India ranked 93rd out of 180 countries on the corruption perception index. That index is released by Transparency International. For your prelims point of view, these two facts are quite important, because most of the time they ask about the one statement about ranking, second statement about which particular body is going for the release of such corruption perception index or any other index if you talk about. Okay, so that can be important. Other than that, second thing which can be important is that what is the index last year. While in 2022 it was 40, the score was 40, and the India's rank was 85. Okay, so here score is not that much important, but rank is. So rank was 85 in 2022, and now in 2023 we have this rank. That this is report concerned for the 23rd year, last year. So we have a rank of 93. So these three facts are quite important for your prelims point of view. Other than that, we will be discussing other facts. That is, here you can see India ranked 93 out of 180 countries in 2023 Corruption Perception Index by Transparency International. So this fact is quite important for you. And now the CPI measures perceived level of public sector corruption. So what does this index talk about? This talks about public sector corruption. Okay, whatever corruption is there in the public sphere, they are talking about that. There are certain indicators on the basis of which they decide this. Okay, but we are not going into that. There is a scale of 0 to you can say 100. Right now India is scoring 39 and last year it was 40. So we cannot say that there is a significant drop. There is a drop of only 1 unit. Okay, so India's overall score is 39 and a slight decrease from the previous year's score, that is 40, and rank was 85. So this is also important for you. That is, it is the rank in 2022 was 85th. Okay, Singapore leads the Asian region. When we are talking about Asian region, Singapore is in the lead. Okay, and then when we are talking about the top rankers, Denmark is the one who is at the top of the list. Other than that, there are Finland, New Zealand and Norway. Okay, so when we are talking about this index, European countries are doing quite good. When we are talking about European countries and then European Union, they are doing good. But as of now, when we are talking about the global level, Denmark is performing best, and when we are talking about the worst performance, that is of Somalia. Okay, we have discussed that. What are the reasons for such ranking of India? Now, in South Asia, if we are talking about the neighboring country, you can say Pakistan is at 133rd rank and Sri Lanka is 115th rank. Both of these countries are facing debt burden and political instability with a strong judicial oversight. Okay, so now obviously there is this political instability in both the nations. We have seen in our editorial discussions also, we have seen that Sri Lanka was facing a political instability, but right now they are also going through an economic crisis. Okay, and when we are talking about Pakistan is going through both economic crisis as well as the political instability. Okay, so that is why there is when there is the poor governance because of the political crisis, political instability, there is a poor governance, and when there is a poor governance, chances of corruption increase. Okay, so that is why they are having such poor ranking. Okay, now China's aggressive and anti-corruption measures. China is going for the aggressive anti-corruption measures because they are going for punishments, etc. If they are finding someone involved in corruption, they are going for the harsh punishments, and because of which China's ranking is 76th. Okay, so now here you can see that because of such harsh punishments and anti-corruption measures which are taken by the government of China, we are seeing this particular ranking. But there are chances that this ranking might not go, might not be viable, or you can say reliable in the in longer term, because as soon as these particular harsh measures are withdrawn, there are chances that they will get back into corruption. Okay, now countries at the bottom of the index include Myanmar, Afghanistan and North Korea. Their ranking are given. Myanmar is 162, Afghanistan is also 162, and then North Korea is 172. Okay, then when we are talking about the worst performer, that is Somalia, that is your 180th, that is lowest. As I told you, there are only 180 countries and that is having 180th rank, that is Somalia. Hold on. Sorry. So when we are talking about Somalia, Somalia is facing such worse condition because Somalia is going through a lot of extremism, etc. Must have heard about the Sahel region. Okay, so Sahel region in African continent is going through chaos most of the time. There are, you can say, various military coups are going in that particular region, and Somalia is somehow connected to that region, and that is why we can say that this poor performance on the corruption index is because of that particular thing. Okay, so that is all the important factors from the articles. And about the corruption perception index, for you ranking of India is important. For you it is important that what was the ranking last time, who published this particular report. These 3-4 facts will be important. Other than that, if you want to if there is a question on mains related to corruption, etc., then you can quote this particular report and you can say how India is performing better than other neighboring countries. Okay, so now let's move further with the third article. IMF remains bullish on India, raise GDP growth forecast. Okay, so yesterday we have gone through this Indian economy review. That was a report launched by the finance ministry and prepared by the economic advisors office. In that particular report, we have seen that India's growth prospects are nearly around 7% and even more than 7%. So we are saying that India will grow in the coming years, or you can say by 2025, India will be growing at the rate of 7%. Okay, IMF in the last assessment, they have said that India will be growing at the rate of 6.3%. Now they have also enhanced the report prospects, and they have said that India will be growing at the rate of 6.7%. Okay, so here in the financial year 24, India will be growing at the pace of 6.7%, and financial year 25 they will be growing at the pace of 6.5%. Okay, so now you can see that even IMF has increased our growth prospects when we are considering the numbers. Okay, and they have also said that this will be predominantly because of the demand. Okay, demand driven economy in India. Okay, so that is what has been discussed here. Okay, other than that, when we are talking about other you can say institutions which are forecasting our you can say growth prospects, so NSO, that is saying that India will be growing at the pace of 7.3%. When we are talking about RBI is also saying that we will be growing at the rate of 7%. And as I told you, this particular report by government of India or finance ministry, that is also saying that India will be growing at the rate of anything more than 7% or more than 7%. Other than that, there are few targets which we have already discussed, that by 2025 or 26 will be the third largest economy. Okay, and in the next 3 years. In the next 3 years, India will be third largest economy. Okay, it will be having a GDP of nearly $5 trillion. Okay, and by 2030, India will be having a GDP of nearly $7 trillion. Okay, So these are all prospects which we have discussed yesterday. In this article also these numbers are discussed. As I told you, these are NSO's projected numbers. These are Reserve Bank of India's numbers. Here when we are talking about V. Anantha Nageshwaram, that report we talked about yesterday, they are talking about that trends, and the same thing, that 5 trillion economy by 27-28 in the next 3 years, and then by 2030 we will be having an economy that is of 7 trillion. Okay. So all these things are important for you. Just thing is, you must remember these 3-4 forecast by NSO, RBI, that particular report, Indian Economy Review, and then by IMF, that is 6.7%. Okay, so these 4 data will be important for you, and these are some aspirations India holds in the future. So that is important for you. So that is all about this article. Now moving further, we have discussed all these articles because now budget is around the corner. Tomorrow only we will be having this budget discussion in the parliament. So that is why we have discussed all these important prospects, or you can say a review of the economy, so that you can have things in mind when you are will be going with the speech of the finance minister. And I would suggest that you go through that particular speech, because various important policy issues are discussed and various important schemes are talked about. Because as a budget, in the budget there is the speech of you can say that speech will have some schemes. They will be talking about some schemes, their performance in the you can say last year. So that is why those schemes become important for your exam point of view as well. Okay, so now moving further, in your international relations, there are 3 or 4 articles we will be discussing. There is not much to discuss today. Indian Navy rescues 19 Pakistani nationals from Somali pirates, frees Lankan vessels with 6 crew. So basically, in the last 3 days, Indian you can say Navy has gone through 2 or 3 operations in the Indian Ocean. Okay, and all were successful. And in that regard, we have seen that there are few vessels like INS Sumitra, okay, INS Sharda, other than that INS Vishakhapatnam. Okay, these particular vessels has been deployed in the Indian Ocean because of the issue which is going on in the Red Sea. That is, the Houthi rebels are creating chaos. These rebels are based in Yemen, but they are backed by Iran. Okay, and they are having this position that they will not stop all these attacks until there is this you can say ceasefire in the Gaza area. Okay, other than that there is this issue of piracy in that area. Okay, so because of these 2 issues, okay, issue of piracy as well as the issue that is created by the Houthi rebels in the Red Sea area, India has increased the security prospects in this particular area. They have gone for deployment of nearly 10 vessels in that region and going for patrolling, etc. India is considered to be the first responder whenever there is a certain incident that is happening in the Indian Ocean. In that regard, when there was this particular issue, Indian Navy rescued a crew of 19 Pakistani nationals from Somali pirates hijacked, and there was another you can say hijacked Iranian fishing vessel Al Naimi. Okay, so these 2 things. Other than that, there was also this Iranian flagged fishing vessel earlier. They have rescued that. These names are not important for you. Only thing is, India is the first responder in this area, and India has rescued various people from this piracy and the Houthi rebels attacks. Okay, in the last 1 month or 1.5 months, we have seen various news like this, and India has responded well. India has done well in that regard. Other than that, these 3 vessels which we have discussed, that is INS Sumitra, Sharda and Vishakhapatnam, these vessels are important. You can go and check the background of these vessels. Okay, not you don't have to go into details of it. Just the thing is, which class is that, under which project they were commissioned. Okay, all these things. Other than that, when we are talking about other issue was there related to Sri Lankan fishing vessel, so India has helped there as well. So they have done it with the help of Seychelles Defense Forces, or you can say Seychelles Coast Guard, etc. So we'll be talking about this Seychelles Island. Since we have done some operation with them, we have gone for the rescue operation with Seychelles. This island become important, or this, since it is in news, so you must know the location of this island. So we'll be discussing that. Okay. Other than that, Marcos Marine Commandos, Indian Navy's Marine Commandos have been very active in this particular area, and they have rescued earlier also a Liberian flagged vessel. So all these things are happening in the Indian Ocean, and India is performing well. India is going for the response in that area. Okay, so when we are talking about Seychelles, here you can see that this is your broader Indian Ocean region. Okay, and these group of island here, this is basically Seychelles. Okay, other than that we have this Madagascar, Reunion Island, Mauritius. Okay, so all these islands are quite important for you, but right now Seychelles is important. Other than that, Somalia, recently we have talked about the ranking of the corruption perception index, so that is also important. And when we are talking about this Houthi rebels, so the Yemen part here somewhere, Yemen is also important for you. Okay, so all these things are important, so we have taken this. Other than that, Lakshadweep and Maldives has been in news for various reasons now. Lakshadweep has been in news because of the Prime Minister of India's visit. Other than that, when we are talking about Maldives, Maldives was in news because of the presidential elections, and when we are talking about the India and Maldives relations. Okay, so that is important for you. Okay, when we are talking about Sri Lanka, with Sri Lanka we have started few ferry services in the last year, so that can be important for you. So that is about this particular you can say reason. So you can go through our last sessions, okay, and keep a map handy with you. You can just plot these important locations from this particular area. Okay, now we can move forward with the next article, that is related to studying the 3-stage truce scheme. So basically, after a long time, there is this concrete plan which has been put forwarded to Hamas, and they are saying that they are studying this particular plan. So when we are talking about who were involved in plan, so USA, Qatar, Egypt, okay, and Israel, they have put forward a 3-stage plan in front of Hamas. They are saying that first, you in a phased manner, you will release all the hostages, and then there will be a ceasefire. Okay, Hamas is considering that plan. So after a long time, now we have come up with some kind of a positive step towards peace. So that is the positive development in that particular issue. Other than that, same things are going forward. Even at this point of time, also Israeli PM Netanyahu is saying that he repeated his vow not to pull troops out of Gaza until total victory. So here what they are talking about total victory, we don't know what is the interpretation of this word, but they are saying that until there is a total victory, we will not pull out from the Gaza. Okay, so that is about this thing. Okay, other than that, issues are still going on. There are raids in the hospital in the West Bank. All these things are happening. Okay, now moving further, for your own read, there are 2 articles. This article I will be discussing here, that is related to one particular book. Okay, why Bharat matters. So basically, this book is written by our External Affairs Minister, okay, Mr. Jaishankar. So if you quote this book in your exam, so that will fetch you some extra mark definitely. Other than that, also what is given in this book is that in this book he has made an analogy, or you can say our foreign policy and various players, and he has taken reference from Ramayana. Okay, so he has taken this particular issues of our foreign policy and attached to the characters of Ramayana, so that it we can make an analogy out of it. Okay, so that is why this book become important. In this one particular example I can give you, that for Quad he has said that in Quad we have 4 members, that is India, USA, Australia and Japan. Okay, and in this book he has said that these Quad members are like 4 sons of Dashrath. Okay, 4 sons of Dashrath. So like this he has made some analogy out of it. Okay, so that is why this book becomes important. If you get a chance, please read it. Otherwise also, so you just remember the name of the book. Other than that, he has talked about few particular issues, that that is when we are talking about Maldives issue, he has said that ultimately there are some issues we have to take some hard decisions. You have to make hard decisions, or you have to make hard stands, but ultimately foreign policy or diplomacy works in a different way. Okay, so there are various angles involved in the diplomacy, and when we are talking about our neighbors, ultimately they are neighbors and we will need our neighbors. Okay, so that is what he has said. At the end of the day, neighbors need each other. Okay, so in that regard, with Maldives, as Jaishankar has said that at the end of the day, neighbors are important. We need our neighbors. Okay, every country has problem in the neighborhood. Eventually they reach an understanding. It is the nature of the politics that we have to take strong stands, but diplomacy work differently. Okay, so this is one statement which he has made. Other than that, there was this question related to India Out campaign, to what he has given this particular answer, that ultimately neighbors need each other. Okay, and India is doing good, and he has said that to trust Indians on their diplomats. Okay, and then when we are talking about the Red Sea crisis, he has talked about nearly 10 ships has been deployed in that particular area. So all these things, small information he has talked about. So you can go through this particular you can say article and remember this particular book, that is Why Bharat Matters. Other than that, there was another book, that is The India Way. Okay, in this book also, and that is also being written by S. Jaishankar, and he has talked about the uncertain geopolitical scenario of you can say the world, and how India should place himself or itself in that particular area. Okay, so that is about these two books. You can remember these two books name, and you can quote them in your mains answer writing. And then, amid Red Sea tensions, Asian fuel exports to Europe hits and Russian oil cargoes sail strong. Okay, so we have discussed this issue various times, why this sea route is important, why Strait of Hormuz is important, why Bab al Mandab is important, why Suez Canal is important. So because of all these things, because of the issue created by the Houthi rebels in Yemen, this particular thing was in news, and we have discussed this, so you can give it a read, and even if you want to skip it, that is not a problem, because we have mostly covered all these things. Okay, so with that, we will be moving forward to the you can say our practice question. Okay, hold on. Okay, so the practice question is, what is the primary goal of bio rescue project? Okay, we have discussed that in the start of the class. Habitat restoration, reviving the northern white rhino through IVF. C is addressing poaching of rhinos. D, promoting awareness about endangered species. Okay, so you have to choose the right answer, and you can put that answer in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave. Okay, uh, and there was this issue related to the timing of the class. Mostly this class is on 10:30 every Monday to Friday, but the thing is, if there is some kind of technical issue, that class might shift nearly half an hour max to max. So that is about the class. Other than that, whatever we are talking about news, when we are talking about the newspaper, that is of Saturday and Sunday, we are covering those newspaper on Monday. Okay, other than that, there was this thing, why I'm not regular. I'm actually regular most of the time, but if there is a gap, or because of some issue the class wouldn't go live, we will be covering that newspaper in the next session, so don't worry about that. From the newspaper front, from the Indian Express point of view, everything will be covered in these sessions. Okay, so fine, thank you. I'll see you in the next class. If you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel.